Thanks for taking the time. How you doing, brother? You keeping busy?
Yeah. I mean, it's rarely a slow week. I mean, in the world as well.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, any given week, it just seems like the things get nuttier.
It's definitely a simulation. We've agreed on this at this point.
I mean, if we are in some alien Netflix series, I think the ratings are high.
Yes, ratings are high. How are the freedom of speech wars going? This is you've been at war for 2 years now.
Yes.
The price of freedom of speech is not cheap, is it?
I think it's like 44 billion, something like that.
Just
Round numbers.
give or take $1 billion.
Yeah, round numbers. Yeah. It's pretty nutty. There is like this weird movement to quell free speech kind of around the world, and this is something we should be very concerned about. You have to ask, like, why was the First Amendment like a high priority? It was like number one. It's because people came from countries where if you spoke freely, you would be imprisoned or killed. And they were like, well, we'd like to not have that here. Because that was terrible.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot of places in the world right now, if you're critical of the government, you get imprisoned or killed.
Right.
Yeah, and we'd like to not have that.
And are you concerned?
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I mean, I suspect this is a receptive audience to that message.
Yeah. I think we always thought that the West was the exception to that we knew there were authoritarian places around the world, but we thought that in the West we'd have freedom of speech. And we've seen, like you said, it seems like a global movement. In Britain, you've got teenagers being put in prison for memes,
Yes.
opposing.
It's like you liked a Facebook post, you throw them in the prison.
Yeah, it's
Like people have got an actual, prison for like obscure comments on social media.
Not even shit posting yet.
Like not even.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Pavel got thrown in prison
Right. You've got
recently,
Pavel.
and I'm like, that was pretty shook about that. I was like, what is the massive crime that?
Right. Pavel in France, and then of course we got Brazil with Judge Voldemort. That one seems like the one that impacts you the most. What's the latest on that?
Well, I guess we are trying to figure out, is there some reasonable solution in Brazil? The concern, I want to just make sure that this is framed correctly. Funny memes aside, the nature of the concern was that, at least at X Corp, we had the perception that we were being asked to do things that violated Brazilian law. So, obviously, we cannot, as an American company, impose American laws and values on other countries. We wouldn't get very far if we did that. But we do, think that if a country's laws are a particular way, and we're being asked to we think we're being asked to break them, then and be silent about it, then obviously that is no good. Mm-hmm. So I just want to be clear, because this sometimes comes across as Elon's trying to just be a crazy whatever billionaire and demand outrageous things from other countries. And, while that is true, in addition, there are other things that I think are, valid, which is like we obviously can't, I think any given thing that we do at X Corp, we've got to be able to explain in the light of day and not feel that it was dishonorable or we did the wrong thing, so we don't that's the nature of the concern. So we actually are in sort of discussions with the judicial authorities in Brazil to try to run this to ground. Like, what's actually going on? Like, if we're being asked to break the law, Brazilian law, then that obviously should not sit well with the Brazilian judiciary. And if we're not and we're mistaken, we'd like to understand how we're mistaken. I think that's a pretty reasonable position.
I'm a bit concerned, as your friend, that you're going to go to one of these countries, and I'm going to wake up one day and you're going to get arrested, and like I'm going to have to go bail you out or something. Like feels very acute. Like,
yes,
I mean, it's not a joke now. Like they're literally saying like, it's not just Biden saying like we have to look into that guy. Now it's become quite literal. Like this. Who was the guy who just wrote the, was it the Guardian piece about like...
Oh, yeah. There have been 3 articles, I think in the past 3 weeks.
Robert Reich.
But it wasn't just him. It was like 3 different articles.
3 different articles, yeah.
That's a trend.
Calling for me to be imprisoned in the Guardian, Guardian of what?
What are they protecting exactly? Yeah.
Guardian of, I don't know.
Authoritarianism?
Guardian of,
Censorship?
Censorship.
But the premise here is that you bought this thing, this online forum, this communication platform, and you're allowing people to use it to express themselves. Therefore, you have to be jailed. I don't understand the logic here.
Right.
What do you think they're actually afraid of at this point? What's the motivation here?
I mean, I think if somebody's afraid, if somebody's sort of trying to push a false premise on the world, then that premise can be undermined with public dialogue, then they will be opposed to public dialogue on that premise because they wish that false premise to prevail.
Right.
So that's, I think, the issue there is if they don't like the truth, then we want to suppress it. So now the sort of what we're trying to do with X Corp is I distinguish that from my son, who's also called X.
Yes. Right. You have parental goals, and then you have goals for the company.
Everything's just called X, basically.
Yes.
It's very difficult disambiguation.
The car, the sun.
Yeah, it's X everything. So what we're trying to do is simply adhere to the laws in a country. So if something is illegal in the United States, or if it's illegal in Europe or Brazil or wherever it might be, then we will take it down or we'll suspend the account because we're not there to make the laws. But if speech is not illegal, then what are we doing? Okay, now we're injecting ourselves in as a censor, and where does it stop? And who decides? So, and where does that path lead? I think it leads to a bad place. So if the people in a country want the laws to be different, they should make the laws different. But otherwise, we're going to obey the law in each jurisdiction.
Right. And some of these European...
That's it. It's not more complicated than that. We're not trying to flout the law. I'm going to be clear about that. We're trying to adhere to the law. And if the laws change, we will change. And if the laws don't change, we won't. We're just literally trying to adhere to the law.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yes, it's very straightforward. And if somebody thinks we're not adhering to the law, well, they can file a lawsuit. Bingo.
Also very straightforward. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there are European countries that don't want people to promote Nazi propaganda.
Yes.
They have some sensitivity to it.
Well, it is illegal.
It is illegal in those countries.
It is illegal.
And in those countries, if somebody puts that up, you take it down.
Yes.
But they typically file something and say, take this down. And
no, in some cases, it is just obviously illegal. Like, you don't need to file a lawsuit for, if something is just, unequivocally illegal. We can literally read the law. This violates the law. Anyone can see that. Like you don't need, like if somebody is stealing, you don't need. Let me check the law on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh no, they're stealing
San
stuff.
Francisco.
Let's talk about. So we had JD Vance here this morning. He did a great job. And one of the things is there's this image on X of basically you, Bobby, Trump, and JD are like the Avengers, I guess. And then there's another meme where you're in front of a desk where it says DOGE.
Yeah.
The Department of Governmental Efficiency.
Yes. I posted that one.
Tell us about
I made it using Grok, the Grok image generator, and I posted it.
Tell us about
and put it to my profile.
Seek for efficiency. How do you do it?
Well, I I think with great difficulty. But look, it's been a long time since there was a serious effort to reduce the size of government and to remove absurd regulations.
Yeah.
And the last time there was a really concerted effort on that front was Reagan in the early '80s. So we're 40 years away from a serious effort to remove regulations that don't serve the greater good and reduce the size of government. And I think it's just, if we don't do that, then what's happening is that we get regulations and laws accumulating every year until eventually everything's illegal. And that's why we can't get major infrastructure projects done in the United States. Like if you look at the absurdity of the California high-speed rail, I think they've spent $7 billion and have a 1,600-foot segment that doesn't actually have rail in it. I mean, your tax dollars at work,
Yeah, what are we doing?
that's an expensive 1,600 feet of concrete, And I think it's like I realize sometimes I'm perhaps a little optimistic with schedules, but I wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing if I was not an optimist. But at the current trend, California high-speed rail might finish sometime next century. Maybe. But probably not.
We'll have teleportation by that time. So.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just have the AI do everything at that point. I think you really think of the United States and many countries. It's arguably worse in the EU, as being like Gulliver tied down by a million little strings. And like any one given regulation is not that bad, but you've got a million of them, or millions actually, and then eventually you just can't get anything done. And this is a massive tax on the consumer, on the people. It's just they don't realize that there's this massive tax in the form of irrational regulations. I'll give you a recent example that is just insane. Is that like SpaceX was fined by the EPA $140,000 for they claimed dumping potable water on the ground, drinking water. And we're like, this is at Starbase, and we're like, we're in a tropical thunderstorm region. That stuff comes from the sky all the time, and there was no actual harm done. It was just water to cool the launch pad during liftoff. And there's zero harm done. And they agree, yes, there's zero harm done. And we're like, okay, so there's no harm done. And but you want us to pay a $140,000 fine? It's like, yes, because you didn't have a permit.